Hello again and welcome back to our course on Project 2019 Advanced. In this section, we're going to look at variable material costs. Now, so far in this sequence of sections on cost, we've primarily been looking at work resources and associated costs. But there are some special situations that arise with costs associated with materials. And one of them is a situation where you assign a material to a task or maybe a set of tasks, and the amount of material that's required depends on some possible variable factors. For example, the example we're going to use here is another building example. I'm just going to take a small fragment of a building project and show you how we deal with a situation where the amount of material that's used is dependent upon the duration of the task. Now I'm going to create version 04 of our house build, but this will only have one task and a few resources. And it's a grossly oversimplified case of putting in what are sometimes called the footings or foundations of a house. And basically we're going to pour concrete into a hole in the ground. And whilst this is going on, we need to run a pump to pump out any water that is within the space that's having the concrete poured into it. So the materials we're using are basically the concrete, the pump that's being used to pump the water out, and the fuel to operate the pump. So what you can see here is that I have a file called Variable Material Costs Demo that currently has one task in my project called Footings. And that's currently scheduled to run for 3 days. Now again, I don't suggest that the figures I'm using here are particularly realistic, but for the purpose of demonstrating variable material cost, we should be just fine. Now let me go to the resource sheet, and we're going to set up the 3 resources that I need. Now the first resource is going to be concrete, and that is going to be a material resource. And the units that we're going to use are cubic yard. The initials are going to be just concrete, and it's going to be $80 per cubic yard, and we're going to accrue that at the start. My second resource is going to be the pump. Again, that's going to be a material. The material is going to be day use because we're only using it for the day. Let's give it initials of pump. And the standard rate for the use of the pump for 1 day is going to be $10. And that is going to accrue at the end. And then my third material is the fuel for the pump. So the units here are going to be litres. And we buy the fuel for this pump in litres, and it costs just $1 a litre. So let's add that one in as well. So let's add fuel. Again, it's a material. And our measurement is litres, our initials fuel, and it's going to be $1 per litre, and we're going to leave that as pro-rated. So there we are. Those are my 3 resources, and what I need to do now is to assign them to a task. So the first resource that I'm going to assign to the task is the concrete. So let's right-click and select Assign Resources, and make sure that we have concrete selected, and I need 20 cubic yards. So the total cost should be 20 cubic yards multiplied by $80 per cubic yard. The next resource I'm going to assign is the pump. Now with the pump, when it comes to specifying the units, I need to specify the units in terms of the duration of the task, because basically we're going to use 1 pump day each day. So the units I put in as 1/D for 1 day. Now for the fuel, the amount of fuel I use is 1 litre per day. So the units here are 1/H. And notice also here that when I press the tab key, it automatically assigns it to the task. I don't have to click assign. I can just press tab to get that assigned as well. So now if you notice the fuel, the total cost is $24. So that's a 3-day task, 8 hours a day, 24 hours of use. So that's going to cost $24. So the total cost of this task is $1,654. So that's basically how we assign variable material costs. And what I'm going to do now is show you what happens if things change. Let's suppose that we decide that it really isn't going to take 3 days to do this task. It's only going to take 2 days. So click on the 3 days here and change it to 2 days. Let's see what happens to our cost. Well, the fuel now is only 2 days, 8 hours a day, 16 hours. The fuel only costs $16 because the amount depends on the duration of the task. For the pump, that's 2 lots of $10 for the 2 days. And the concrete is not dependent on the duration, it's the same cost. So 20 cubic yards of concrete will still cost $1,600. So that's about it. That's the variable material costs. I will see you in the next section.